Mira Voss had always trusted decisions that could be measured, calculated, justified on paper. That belief shattered the moment she found the envelope lying just inside her apartment door, untouched by the storm outside, as if it had been placed there with deliberate care. Inside was a single black card, smooth and heavy, carrying 6 words that seemed to echo louder the longer she stared at them: "Come tonight, or Daniel dies first." Her breath caught in her throat as the name anchored the threat in something real, something she had been trying not to think about for months. Daniel wasn't just missing, he had vanished in a way that left behind silence instead of answers, as though someone had carefully erased his presence. The police had given up. The leads had dried. But this was different. This meant he was alive. And someone wanted her to know it. The rain against her windows grew louder, but Mira barely noticed as she stood frozen in the dim kitchen light, the card trembling in her fingers. Whoever had left it knew her routine, knew her fears, knew exactly which thread to pull. By the time she stepped out into the night, coat pulled tight around her and Daniel's old pocket knife hidden in her palm, she already understood one thing with chilling clarity: this wasn't an invitation. It was the beginning of something she wouldn't be able to walk away from. The Marrow Hotel stood like a forgotten memory at the edge of the city, its burned exterior still scarred from a fire that had supposedly ended its story years ago. But as Mira approached, something felt wrong. The lights inside glowed faintly, steady and intentional, as if the building had never truly died. Pushing open the door, she stepped into a space that defied everything she expected: polished floors, clean air, and silence. So controlled it felt staged. Behind the reception desk stood Lucien Vale, composed and immovable, his presence filling the room with quiet authority. He greeted her as though he had been expecting her all along, his voice calm in a way that made it impossible to read his intentions. He spoke of Daniel not as a victim, but as leverage, reducing Mira's fear into something transactional. Then he introduced the rules. A sequence of choices. Each one with consequences. Each one shaping what came next. Before Mira could respond, before she could even begin to understand what she had stepped into, another voice cut through the stillness. Rowan Cade. A man she recognized from headlines tied to scandals and disappearances, now standing in the shadows like someone who had seen too much to trust anyone. He warned her not to play Lucien's game, not to take the key being offered. And just like that, the first decision was placed in her hands. Trust the man who controlled the situation, or the man who claimed to know how dangerous it truly was. Mira realized then that this wasn't just about finding Daniel, it was about being forced to choose who she believed, knowing that belief itself might be the first mistake. Choosing Rowan didn't feel like trust, it felt like defiance. He led her away from the carefully maintained illusion of the lobby and into the hidden skeleton of the hotel, where cracked walls and exposed pipes told a different story entirely. Here, the building felt honest in its decay, stripped of whatever performance Lucien had constructed above. Rowan spoke as they moved, his voice low but urgent, explaining how Lucien operated in shadows, collecting secrets and using them to control people rather than destroy them outright. It was a system built on leverage, on fear, on making sure no one could act without risking everything they cared about. Mira listened, but part of her remained distant, focused only on one thing: Daniel. When Rowan showed her the photograph, recent and undeniable, something inside her broke open. Daniel was alive. Bound, exhausted, but alive. Hope surged through her, sharp and overwhelming, but it came with a cost. Because if Lucien had allowed her to see this, then it was part of the game. Every piece of information was intentional. Every revelation controlled. And when Lucien's voice echoed through the hotel speakers, calm and omnipresent, it confirmed what Mira had begun to fear. This wasn't a rescue mission. It was a controlled environment where every move she made was being observed, evaluated, and manipulated. And somewhere in that system, her brother's life was being used as the ultimate bargaining chip. The 4th floor felt colder than the rest of the building, the air heavy with a tension that pressed down on Mira's chest as soon as she stepped into the corridor. The steel gate blocking their path stood as a physical reminder that nothing here would be simple. Attached to it was a note in Daniel's handwriting, the familiarity of it cutting through her like a blade. Don't let him make you pick. The words lingered in her mind, repeating themselves as she noticed the small, almost invisible camera mounted in the corner. Lucien wasn't just controlling the game, he was watching every reaction, every hesitation. Then came the next instruction, sliding into place with calculated precision. The code divided in two. One half with Rowan. The other tied to something Mira had kept hidden, even from herself. The mention of her office, of the safety box she had avoided opening, forced her to confront a truth she had been trying to ignore. Whatever Daniel had uncovered, it was connected to her. Her past decisions. Her willingness to approve things she didn't fully question. This wasn't just about saving him anymore. It was about understanding how she had become part of the problem without ever realizing it. And now, standing in front of that locked gate, Mira understood the real purpose of the game, to strip away every layer of denial until she was left with nothing but the consequences of her own choices. The tension snapped when Elena Sorrell stepped into the corridor, her presence sharp and immediate, cutting through the uncertainty like a blade. She carried herself with the kind of focus that came from knowing exactly what was at stake, her weapon steady but not reckless. She revealed pieces of the truth that neither Mira nor Rowan had fully understood, exposing cracks in Rowan's story that shifted the balance instantly. The realization that Rowan had been involved in Daniel's situation, even indirectly, twisted everything Mira thought she knew. Trust became impossible. Every word, every action, now carried the weight of potential betrayal. Elena's urgency pushed them forward, deeper into the hotel, but Mira could feel the pressure building around her. This wasn't just about external threats anymore, it was about navigating the fragile, shifting alliances between people who all had something to hide. Lucien didn't need to force them apart. He only needed to reveal the right information at the right time. And as Mira watched Rowan struggle to defend himself, she saw the truth in the silence between his words. In this place, no one was innocent. And that meant every decision she made would hurt someone, no matter what she chose. The basement felt like the heart of everything, dark, suffocating, filled with the quiet hum of systems that never stopped running. The control room revealed the scale of what Lucien had built, screens flickering with surveillance feeds that turned lives into data points, choices into predictable outcomes. And there, among them, was Daniel. Alive, moving, still fighting. Relief hit Mira so hard it almost made her collapse, but it was quickly overshadowed by the presence that emerged from the shadows. Lucien. Calm as ever, as if this moment had been planned down to the smallest detail. He didn't threaten her. He didn't need to. Instead, he explained. He showed her how her past decisions had contributed to this system, how her approval of a single report had allowed something much larger to grow unchecked. It wasn't accusation, it was clarity. The kind that forced her to see herself not as a victim, but as a participant. Mira felt the weight of it settle over her, heavier than any fear she had felt so far. Because this wasn't just about what she would do next. It was about what she had already done. And for the first time, she understood that the most dangerous consequences weren't always immediate. Sometimes, they waited. They grew. And when they finally surfaced, they brought everything with them. When the final choice came, it didn't feel dramatic. It felt inevitable. The flash drive in Mira's hand represented everything: truth, exposure, justice, but also risk, uncertainty, and the possibility that Daniel would never make it out alive. Rowan and Elena stood on opposite sides of the decision, each carrying their own version of what was right, each shaped by the mistakes they had already made. Mira looked at the screen one last time, at her brother still fighting to stay conscious, and realized that this was the one thing Lucien couldn't control completely. Not the outcome, but the reason behind it. She wasn't choosing between right and wrong. She was choosing which consequence she could live with. Crushing the drive wasn't a victory. It was a sacrifice. One that erased the chance to bring everything down in exchange for saving the one person she couldn't lose. The chaos that followed was sudden and violent, breaking the careful control Lucien had maintained until that point. And in the aftermath, as sirens closed in and the building began to fall apart around them, Mira understood that the game wasn't truly over. It never would be. Because the real consequence wasn't what she had done, it was what she would have to live with after.